Well, welcome back, folks. I'm actually shooting these videos a little bit out of order. My intention was to do the next in the series of the F6 clutch repair, and I've bumped into a little problem getting parts, which I won't talk about in this video. I'll talk about that when we get back to the F6 in a little more detail. But suffice it to say that right now I want to share with you my plan around the Honda Trail 70 that you see in shot right now. Since I'm waiting for parts on the F6 Kawasaki, I thought I'd go over this bike and formulate my approach and my plan for the reconditioning of this project. Now again, as a reminder, this is not a restoration, so if you're looking for a complete frame off restore video series on this bike, you're going to be disappointed. My intention here is simply to clean it up, replace the wear items that are, obviously need attention, and repair and replace some missing items and that kind of thing. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail here in a second. I'm also going to insert here a clip of me starting this bike a little earlier today, after I'd done some work on the carburetor, trying to get it to start a little bit easier. My initial thinking was that the compression was a little light because it was starting hard when cold. That's usually a symptom of low compression. So I warmed up the bike about a week ago, really good. I rode around the yard, got the engine good and hot, brought it back in and did 3 separate compression tests with the throttle wide open. And I'm happy to report there is no problem with compression on this engine. It consistently across the 3 tests ran between 155 and 160 pounds of compression. So it's got plenty of compression for this little engine. So that wasn't the problem, and that's why I moved on to the carburation, because I knew the ignition was fine. There's no problem there. Though the ignition does need some attention. We'll talk about that again. Tinkered with the carburetor a little bit on the adjustments, especially the low-speed jet or the air jet, to try to get this bike to start a little easier and idle a little smoother, and I think I've been successful. This bike's been sitting for a couple of days now and has not been run. I think it's been 2 days, and it's a comfortably warm summer morning right now. So what I'm going to do is just take my inexpensive infrared thermometer. I'm going to shoot the engine just to show you that it's at air temperature right now. This will take a couple of seconds for it to stabilize. Let me change it to Fahrenheit first, and then we'll come back to Celsius. Because it'll take a couple of seconds to stabilize. And it should end up, I'm guessing, high 70s-ish in terms of Fahrenheit. That's about what it is right now, this morning. See where it stabilizes at. For some reason, this unit requires a few seconds to normalize. Let's see where we end up. About 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 78.5. Keeps dropping just a little bit. 78.2, and that would be about what I would expect. I'll change the reading to Celsius. 25.7 degrees. So the engine's room temperature, air temperature right now, and again, it hasn't been run for a couple days. So I'm going to go ahead now and start it, and we'll see how easy it starts. I've got a little label here on the frame just to remind me of which position this choke has to be in. I work on so many different bikes that it's difficult sometimes for me to jump between from bike to bike to bike. I've got 2 or 3 bikes going right now, the F6 and then of course this one, and just as a general reminder to myself. So in this case, the down position, which is right here, that's why I had the air cleaner out. I can reach my finger in there and tell that that's open. Up like this is in the choke position. I already turned the fuel on. Oh no, I haven't actually. I need to turn the fuel on and see how she starts. again, it's in the choke position right now. Hondas typically require a lot of choke. Hands off, choke off, and you can see it's idling nice and smooth, and the engine is stone cold right now. And I have checked the spark plug, and I've run it a little bit a few days ago again, and the spark plug is a nice chocolate color, so I'm real happy with how it's turned out, getting the spark plug adjusted to rather than recovery adjusted so that the engine runs correctly. So let's talk a little more detail about what I am going to do. In other words, what is my plan for this bike? Well, one of the main things I'm going to do is replace the tubes in the front and rear tires here, because the rear tire doesn't hold air at all, and the front tire loses air over a period of a week or so. So the tubes are going to be replaced front and rear. I am not going to replace the tires. I believe those are the original Nitto, N-I-T-T-O tires, which are no longer available. And again, this isn't going to be a serious rider. It's going to be around the yard kind of bike, so I'm going to leave the tires alone, just replace the tubes. I am going to pull eventually the chain off, inspect the front sprocket here. The rear sprocket looks pretty good. It might just need a little cleaning. The chain definitely needs to be cleaned and relubricated. I want to check the condition of that front sprocket and see what kind of shape it's in. I have not done that yet. If the front sprocket is worn, that is, the teeth are worn or they start to hook over usually, I'll just replace the front sprocket. While we're talking about this front sprocket and the side cover right here, you might see someone in the past has welded up that cover. I'm guessing what happened, let me zoom in there a little bit for you so you can probably see it a little bit better. I'm guessing what happened in the past is this chain might have come off and clipped that cover on the inside and blew a hole in it. That's the most likely scenario given the position of it. I suppose it's possible the bike fell over somewhere along the way and damaged it, but I think it's more likely it was a chain malfunction and it took the cover out. I'm not going to replace that cover, by the way. I think it's a neat part of the original patina of the bike. I don't think it needs to be replaced, so outside of cleaning the side cover and getting some of the grunge off the inside and outside, I'm not intending to replace the cover at this time. Let's see, what else are we going to do? I need to get a second key up here. I've only have the one ignition key. Those are pretty easy to get. I don't think I'm going to have any problem getting a second key for it. I always like to have two keys for all of my projects, and so that's on my list. The handlebar levers, the clutch and brake levers up here, of course, I'm going to replace. One of my viewers, one of my friends, Pete and I have been talking about, he might have some levers that might work, and I've got to check in the part numbers he gave me to see if he's got the levers that match this bike. If so, I'll probably get Pete's levers and put them on. Otherwise, they're readily available. Multiple sources, you can still get those levers. But both of these are in pretty rough shape. Handlebars are going to be left alone. I do think that mirror, I don't know if you can see it right there. Right there is the mirror. I don't believe that mirror was originally installed on a bike, on these bikes. As far as I can tell, it's not shown in the parts diagrams. And I think someone added that mirror somewhere along the way. So unless one of the viewers knows for a fact that these bikes came with a rear view mirror, I will probably remove it. I won't get rid of it. I'll just remove it and put it in storage. The electrical system, most electrical system on a bike is not functional. I don't know why exactly. I've got to spend a little bit more time. I've got to spend a lot of time, in fact, trying to figure that out. Brake light doesn't work. I'm not real sure about the headlight. The tail light doesn't work. The horn doesn't work. I don't think the light in the meter works up here, though the meter itself does work. So I've got to go over the electrical system and decide what's going on there eventually. Headlight shell, again, I talked about that when I did the introduction of this project some videos back now. That headlight shell has been severely damaged and someone's attempted a repair. They didn't do a very good job of it, so I'm just going to buy a new headlight shell. You can still get them in this topaz orange color. It won't be an exact match in terms of color because this paint is faded a little bit, but I am going to replace the headlight simply because that one is so badly damaged. There are miscellaneous nuts, bolts, washers, brackets, clips that are missing. An example would be right here in the air cleaner where it mounts here. There's a nut missing. There's some clips that hold some of these drain hoses together and other pieces around the bike that need to be replaced. Most of that you can still get from Honda or aftermarket suppliers. So I'm going to go over the bike and replace all the fasteners and hardware that is either damaged or missing with new hardware. In terms of the fluids, I'm really not sure about the front forks in terms of what kind of fluid, if any, they have in them. To be honest with you, I'm not that familiar with these bikes, so I'm going to have to look into the front forks in terms of fluid. I know I changed the engine oil a number of years ago now. I'll drain the engine oil at minimum, check it, see if it's clean. It probably is because this bike doesn't have many hours on it. But certainly the oil strainer that's in the engine, I'll check that, make sure it's clean. I think I probably cleaned that a number of years ago, but I'll check that again. Make sure the oil strainer is clean, as well as do a general cleaning of the engine. It's just a little grungy right now. You can see I had the air filter out only because I was tinkering with the carburetor. The air filter element I did replace with new a few years back, so that outside of making sure it's clean, I don't really have to do anything with the air filter element. I also replaced the fuel lines at that time, but I see I did not put in place the new clips, the little wire clips that go on the fuel lines. Let me again zoom in for you so you can see what I'm talking about right there. So the little clips that go on the fuel lines, I'll get new ones and replace those as well. And again, that's part of that hardware refurbishing I'm going to do as I work around the bike. Let's go around to the other side of the bike, and I'd like to talk about the exhaust system. Around on the right side of the bike, this throttle right here, the twist grip, you can see the end of it's wore off. I debated at length whether to replace that or just leave it alone. It works okay. I think right now I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to replace it again. That could be part of the original patina of the bike, and I'm not going to worry about it, I don't think, at this point. So outside of new levers, I talked about already, I'm not really intending to do much with the handlebars outside of cleaning them up and removing the rearview mirror. The exhaust system. After careful consideration, and I've looked it over in some detail, I know you can't get a very good shot of it right here or see it. Someone has done some significant repair in this exhaust system back in the day, and they've done basically brazing. It's not a very good quality job, but it did suffice. It doesn't really leak, I don't think, but it's bodged up pretty bad. And this cover, this outside cover here, this long one, is actually welded to the muffler itself, or was at one time. I think it's broke off here in the front. So I think I'm going to just replace the entire muffler system. I could take it off and grind everything back and go through the whole process of welding and filling and et cetera, but I think I'm just going to buy a new exhaust system because you can still get them. Honda supplies them, or they're aftermarket, but I know they're available. A little bit expensive maybe, but you can get them. The seat, I've also done some serious thinking about the seat, and the seat itself, the seat pan, is significantly damaged. Someone has done some repairs on it over the years, and it's cracked, and so I've been doing some soul searching on what to do about the seat. So let me reposition the camera, and I'll flip it up, the seat up, and I'll take a look at that. So obviously I got the seat flipped up right now, and you can see, I think right here, someone's done some stitching and welding all the way up around. There's crack. This is all cracked on both sides. Actually, it's been damaged. There's some stitching up here that they've done, and in attempted repairs. That's not unusual or really unexpected on these little bikes that were ridden hard and put away wet by kids. But I think what I'm going to do is just leave the seat alone. The problem with just replacing the pan, I'm not really going to be able to just replace the pan. If I'm going to do anything to the seat and try to replace the pan, I have to replace the cover as well. Probably not the foam, but the cover itself. And I'm just concerned that that's going to look out of place, and I might straighten this little bracket here, right there. You can see that little bracket that holds the toolkit in place. I'll have to get a new toolkit bag, by the way, right there. That bag's in pretty rough shape, right there. But other than that, I think I'm just going to leave the seat alone and clean it up a little bit maybe and call it. I want to talk about these two holes right here on the right side of the frame. They have inserts, thread inserts, or a nut or something welded on the back, and those are for a handle, a handhold for lifting the bike. But as far as I can tell, that was not original. The handle itself was not originally installed on North American model CT70s. I know they were used, the handle was used in other markets, but several websites, parts suppliers talk about the handles available, you can get them, but it wasn't original on the North American machines, at least for the US machines. But what they do offer is a plug that goes in there, that inserts into those holes and just caps that off or finishes that off. So I'm going to go ahead and get those plugs. Like I said, they're still available, they're inexpensive, and I don't know if they're a thread-in plug or a push-in, I don't know, but I know they're available, and I'll source those parts eventually as well. If someone believes on this video that I'm incorrect, that handle was originally installed on North American models, let me know, but I know a lot of people have added them, and I think they might have been available as a dealer option after the fact, but again, everything I found says that those were not installed by the factory for North American models. In terms of the rest of the bike, outside of a general cleaning, I've already been through some of that. The engine, the frame, do a little TLC. That's the gist, I think, of what I am intending to do right now. I did debate in my own mind about whether to swap the tires around when I change the tubes, that is the rear tire on the front wheel and vice versa, to even out the wear. I still might do that, I don't know. We'll have to see when I get in there and just, get my hands dirty on the work itself. So I have not ordered parts for this yet. I'm ready to submit an order here real soon. Probably will be done in a couple of phases. Turn this a little bit and get that light out of your way. It'll probably be done in a couple of phases because inevitably I'm going to discover something missing that I forgot to order. So I'll do an initial order of parts and then certainly we'll probably do a follow-up eventually. One other thing that's missing, by the way, is a clamp. I just forgot to mention it goes on the intake boot right there that attaches the air cleaner housing intake boot to the carburetor throat. There's a little clamp there that's missing. I got that on my parts list as well. I think that's going to be it for this video today, folks. Interesting comments you might have if you're familiar with these projects, these bikes. Please feel to drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.